Imagine realizing that the only way to save your home from a raging, completely unstoppable wildfire.
Is to, like, run away, right?
No, normally, yeah. But imagine realizing the only way to save it is to actually lock the doors, tear the entire house down to its foundation, and use that timber to build a fire-breathing tank.
Oh, wow.
And then, you drive your own living room directly into the inferno.
That is, I mean, that's just a wild visual.
Right. Welcome to the deep dive. Because today, for you listening, we are looking at a scenario where humanity is faced with a literal galactic extinction threat.
And instead of building escape ships, like every other rational civilization out there,
We decide to just strap giant fusion engines to the Earth.
yeah, just completely hollow out the crust and drive our entire planet into the front lines of a cosmic war.
It's incredible. Okay, so let's unpack this. Because today's deep dive is an exploration of this staggering piece of science fiction history.
It's a massive pillar in the HFY subgenre, right?
Exactly. Humanity, yeah. And the story is titled World Ship Omega, When Earth Went to War. Such a good title.
It really is. And our mission today is to examine the sheer scale, the psychological desperation, and honestly, the absolute audacity of humanity's ultimate survival plan.
Because it's not just about building a weapon.
No. We are looking at a comprehensive narrative that details how an ordinary, totally unassuming blue planet on the edge of civilized space literally became a weapon itself.
It is the absolute definition of insanity by any conventional metric of survival.
Right.
I mean, it completely upends the sociological and biological imperatives of preservation.
Totally. Because you assess an incoming force, you realize you can't physically stop it. And the mathematical, logical response is to run.
Yes. But the lore we are exploring today asks this really fundamental question, like what happens when a species simply refuses to accept the math?
Exactly. So let's get into the inciting incident, because the stakes are established immediately in the source material.
And they are unimaginably grim.
Yeah. So in the historical logs of this universe, Earth has been, for thousands of years, just an ordinary world, just hanging out on the fringes.
Right, circling our yellow dwarf star, participating in this massive, highly complex galactic assembly. But then comes the Extinction War.
And what's terrifying about the Extinction War is that it doesn't start with, a declaration of hostilities.
No formal letters of war or anything.
None. It isn't a diplomatic breakdown over trade routes or border disputes. It's just, silence.
Yeah, this enemy, the force that comes to be known as the Void Fleet, they just arrive without a single warning.
The emphasis on the suddenness and the silence is so crucial to understanding the psychological shock to the galaxy.
Right, because nobody actually saw them arrive.
Exactly. According to the Assembly's historical records, entire densely populated star systems were just vanishing overnight.
Like deep space tracking stations just stopped transmitting entirely.
Vital interstellar trade routes, which, would be the bustling, heavily monitored highways of this whole galactic civilization.
They just instantly turn into dead zones.
Yes. There is a profound terror in that lack of preamble.
Oh, absolutely.
Because in traditional warfare, there's always a buildup, right? You have posturing, you have resource disputes, sanctions.
But here, the onset of the war is entirely asymmetrical. It's totally devoid of context. And the scale of the loss is staggering to even conceptualize. The records indicate that half the galaxy is gone in 50 years.
50 years. Just think about that timeline for a second.
I know. In the grand scheme of the cosmos, or even just the lifespan of a galactic civilization, 50 years is a rounding error.
It's basically a single generation.
Yeah, and half of a society spanning the entire galaxy is just deleted.
But the part that really establishes the existential dread of this whole narrative are the transmitted reports from those early encounters.
Oh man, those reports.
Right. Before their deep space telemetry cut out, every single Allied ship reported the exact same chilling observation about the Void Fleet.
They don't communicate, they don't negotiate, they only erase.
Yes. And what's fascinating there is how that specific operational method strips away every single tool that a highly advanced diplomatic society relies upon.
Right, because the Galactic Assembly is this incredibly complex political entity. They are completely used to navigating the nuances of interstellar relations.
But how do you negotiate with localized entropy?
You can't. You can't offer them territory because they don't want to occupy it.
And you can't offer them resources because they aren't extracting or mining anything.
They're simply deleting reality as they move forward. I was trying to picture this while prepping for the deep dive, and it made me think of Like a malicious computer virus, but on a macro scale.
Oh, that's a good comparison.
Right. Like if your computer gets hacked by a ransomware syndicate, there is a twisted logic to it. They lock your files, they demand cryptocurrency, and you can either negotiate or refuse.
It's a transaction. They want something you actually have.
Exactly. But the Void Fleet isn't ransomware. They are a low-level format of the universe's hard drive.
Wow, yeah. They aren't taking the files to use them.
No, they are just writing zeros over every single sector until there is nothing left.
That is a perfect analogy. And if we connect this to the bigger picture of the Galactic Assembly's reaction, you can clearly map out a macro-level version of the stages of grief.
Oh, definitely.
The source material outlines this progression perfectly. So first, there's denial.
Naturally.
The leading alien councils assume it's just a coordinated piracy ring. They treat it as a localized problem, a nuisance on the fringe trade routes.
Right. They're like, oh, it's just some space pirates who got their hands on advanced stealth tech.
Precisely. It's a comforting lie.
Yeah.
But as the scale of the blackout zones increases, the assembly moves to bargaining and rationalization.
They start telling themselves it must be a rogue empire.
Yes, which is actually a very hopeful thought for them, ironically.
Because an empire has borders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has borders, it has leaders, it has a capital world you can strike back at. An empire operates on comprehensible biological logic.
But then they hit the depression stage.
Yeah. The telemetry comes back,
Yeah.
and they realize the terrifying truth.
That the enemy isn't conquering, it's formatting.
Civilizations that had existed for millions of years simply ceased to exist, leaving no debris, no ruins, just empty space.
And the sheer weight of that realization completely paralyzes the Galactic Assembly, which leads directly to their final grim conclusion, right? The math says the war is unwinnable.
It does.
And this is where we see the massive divergence in how different species react. The lore details that the elder alien races begin preparing evacuation arcs.
Yeah, they just accept extinction as a localized inevitability.
Right. They try to preserve a tiny seed of their species to launch into dark space. Or worse, they just straight up surrender to despair and wait for the deletion to hit them.
But humanity.
Yes, the historical logs make a very specific point here. Humanity refused.
They absolutely refuse.
But why? Like, what is it about the human psychological profile in this universe that makes us incapable of accepting the math when the math clearly dictates a 0% chance of survival?
Well, this raises an important question about the central thesis of this entire genre. It posits that humanity's defining characteristic on the galactic stage isn't necessarily our intelligence or our lifespan or our technology.
What is it then?
It is our profound, almost irrational stubbornness.
Huh. That makes so much sense.
Right. An ancient million-year-old alien civilization possesses the cold wisdom to logically accept an unwinnable scenario and choose a quiet retreat.
But humanity...
Humanity possesses the sheer obstinate audacity to look at an unwinnable scenario and decide to break the rules of the game instead.
We just flip the board over.
Basically.
Okay.
It's framed as an evolutionary adaptation born from a history of surviving on a harsh, highly competitive death world.
So we are hardwired to fight the fire even when the fire is the size of a galaxy.
Precisely. And that evolutionary stubbornness explains perfectly why, while the aliens are drawing up evacuation routes, the leaders of Earth are descending into a bunker to do the exact opposite.
Oh, yes, the Himalayas bunker. We move from the philosophical refusal to the gritty, practical application of it.
The lore takes us to this highly classified subterranean war room, deep beneath the Himalayas.
And the makeup of this room is so important for the listener to picture. We have leading scientists, military commanders, structural engineers, and interestingly, a network of highly advanced artificial intelligences.
The inclusion of those AIs is a really vital detail for the world building.
Why is that?
It tells us that humanity has brought every possible cognitive resource to bear on this problem. They aren't just relying on human intuition or a gut feeling.
They have synthetic minds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Synthetic minds capable of processing trillions of tactical permutations, supply chain logistics, and orbital mechanics per second.
And even with all that brain power, biological and synthetic, they argue for 3 agonizing months.
3 months.
3 months of desperate, completely futile searching for a loophole. Imagine the atmosphere in that Himalayan bunker.
Oh, it must have been horrific.
Yeah, right. The air is stale, the coffee is gone, the stress is literally killing people, and the massive holographic maps in the center of the room are just showing this constantly expanding sphere of deletion getting closer and closer to the Sol system.
And the AIs are running simulation after simulation.
Yeah, like how at a Dyson Swarm defensive grid.
Fulls in minutes.
Okay, what about a massive fleet of conventional dreadnoughts?
Annihilated before they can even power up their weapons.
So out of this collective exhaustion and despair, a relatively young structural engineer named Marcus Hale steps up to the central console.
And he proposes a concept that the records explicitly remember as the most insane idea in human history.
He introduces Plan B, and the reveal here is just so cinematic.
It really is.
The room falls completely silent. Hale pulls up a hologram of Earth rotating above the table, and then, layer by mechanical layer, the planet is encased.
The hologram shows miles-thick armor plates sinking into the crust.
Weapons arrays bursting from the oceans.
Giant fusion engines buried in the mantle.
Planetary shields enveloping the atmosphere, and Marcus Hale just stands there in this dead silent room and drops the line, "We turn Earth into a battleship."
And what we need to focus on is the reaction, because nobody laughed.
Not a single person.
Not the hardened military generals, not the hyperlogical AIs. They didn't laugh because humanity was entirely out of alternatives.
Okay, wait, I have to push back on the physics of this, though.
Sure.
Because as a reader, my immediate reaction is, why use the planet itself?
Right. It seems counterintuitive.
Yeah. If humanity has the technological capacity to build planetary-scale fusion engines and neutron armor, why not just strip mine the asteroid belt, harvest the resources of Jupiter's moons, and build a massive conventional fleet of super dreadnoughts?
It's a completely valid reaction.
Isn't strapping giant rockets to a planet with a molten core, fragile tectonic plates, and a delicate atmosphere wildly inefficient? I mean, it feels like tying cinder blocks to your feet before trying to run a marathon.
It does. And it highlights exactly why Hale's presentation was met with silence. You have to look at the logistics through the lens of absolute, crushing time constraints.
Ah, the clock is ticking.
Exactly. Yes, theoretically, building a fleet of massive dreadnoughts makes more conventional military sense. But a fleet requires infrastructure.
Right.
It requires thousands of orbital shipyards, complex supply chains across the solar system, and years to move materials from mining outposts to processing plants to assembly yards.
And time is the one resource they are completely out of. The Void Fleet is
Well,
advanced.
they don't have the time to build the factory that builds the ship.
So they have to use the factory as the ship.
Precisely. Earth itself is the ultimate pre-assembled material repository. It already has the mass, it already has the core gravity well required to anchor massive superstructures, and it already has deep subterranean layers that can be hollowed out and reinforced.
So Hale's genius, and his madness really, is recognizing that the only object in the solar system massive enough to mount weapons capable of hurting the Void Fleet,
And dense enough to survive the recoil of firing those weapons.
yes, is the planet itself.
So it's not a choice of efficiency, it's a choice of brutal expediency. It's the ultimate macroscopic improvisation.
Wow. It is an act of beautiful, terrifying pragmatism.
But we also have to consider the profound sociological and psychological weight of this decision.
Oh, absolutely.
Because this isn't just a lifeless rock, this is the ancestral home of humanity. Every mountain, every ocean, every continent holds the entire history of our species.
So to accept Hale's plan is to consciously decide to sacrifice the natural beauty and the historical sanctity of Earth.
It is a collective agreement to murder the biosphere in order to save the species.
They are transforming Mother Earth into a weapon of mass destruction.
Yes.
Yet when you frame it like that, the silence in that Himalayan bunker makes total sense. They aren't just looking at an engineering schematic, they're looking at the death warrant for the world as they know it.
They are signing away blue skies, open oceans, and green forests forever.
But they sign it anyway, because they are out of alternatives. And this decision triggers what has to be the most staggering, incomprehensible engineering project in the history of galactic civilization.
World Ship Omega.
Yes. And the execution of this project requires humanity to fundamentally change its relationship with the rest of the galaxy, right?
Absolutely. Construction begins immediately, and for the next 2 centuries, humanity simply vanishes from galactic politics.
The 223-year blackout.
Yeah.
This part of the lore really broke my brain trying to conceptualize the day-to-day reality of it. 223 years.
To the rest of the galactic community, it just looks like Earth has already fallen to the Void Fleet.
Or that humans are just cowards who've gone into hiding and cut all communications.
Right. But the reality is that every single human colony, every distant outpost, is frantically funneling everything they have back to the Sol system.
Asteroids are dismantled atom by atom.
Whole moons are mined out of existence.
Entire human-settled planets are volunteering their total industrial output and shipping it back home.
The scale of resource reallocation is just unfathomable. It requires a completely unified, total war economy sustained over multiple generations in absolute secrecy.
We're talking about a civilization transitioning from a post-scarcity diplomatic society to a hyper-militarized, focused hive mind.
Hmm.
I was actually trying to come up with an analogy for this. Imagine trying to radically remodel a house.
Okay.
Not just painting the walls, but gutting it down to the studs, reinforcing the foundation with titanium, installing a nuclear reactor in the basement, and putting heavy anti-aircraft guns on the roof.
That sounds intense.
That's hard enough, right?
Now, imagine doing all of that while billions of people are still living inside the house, trying to go about their daily lives, and you have to keep the remodeling project a complete secret from the neighbors for 200 years.
It really captures the claustrophobic nightmare of what those 2 centuries must have been like for the human population.
If we extrapolate the sociology of this multi-generational sacrifice, it becomes incredibly dark. Imagine you are a human born in, say, year 150 of the World Ship Omega project.
You wouldn't know anything else. You wouldn't even know what you were missing.
Exactly. You would know what a natural ecosystem looks like. You would be born into a world that is essentially a globe-spanning subterranean construction site.
The records detail that mountain ranges became armor plating, right?
Yes. And oceans concealed weapons factories because they had to drain massive amounts of water to access the tectonic plates and then use the remaining oceans as thermal heat sinks for the orbital foundries.
So cities were entirely moved underground.
Into deep mantle-level bunkers, yeah. To survive the structural changes happening on the surface. So generation after generation lives entirely subterranean lives.
They never see a blue sky.
Because the sky is slowly being blotted out by layers of overlapping neutron armor. They never feel a natural breeze, only the recycled air of the ventilation shafts.
Man, their entire existence, from birth to death, is dedicated to a single inherited objective. Build a massive fusion engine you will never see ignite. Forge a tectonic-scale cannon you will never see fire.
It is a society totally consumed by a deferred salvation.
The psychological toll of that must have been staggering. It's the ultimate cathedral project, but instead of building a monument to a god, you're building a monument to defiance?
And let's look at the mechanics of actually coordinating this.
Right.
The lore mentions that Mars is completely repurposed into a shipyard for escort vessels.
Oh, yeah. And the moon is converted into a mobile command and control station.
And the artificial intelligences are the ones coordinating billions of human workers.
Which makes sense because the precision required to hollow out a planet's crust, install gigantic fusion engines beneath it, and maintain the structural integrity of the globe while you're still spinning it around a star.
It's a testament to those AIs. They are managing the tectonic stress, the atmospheric retention, the artificial gravity plating. They are basically the conductors of an apocalyptic symphony.
Just the orbital mechanics of the moon being converted into a command station is wild.
Right.
You have to break its tidal lock, reinforce its structure so it doesn't shatter when Earth eventually breaks orbit, and tether its communication systems to the subterranean bunkers on Earth.
And the result of that 223-year symphony is a transformation so complete that the historical record declares Earth no longer resembled a planet. It resembled a god.
It literally stops being a celestial body and becomes a deity of war.
The technical specifications detailed in the logs are ludicrous, but entirely consistent with Hale's desperate vision.
We are talking about overlapping layers of neutron armor. Right.
Yes, which requires crushing matter down to the density of a white dwarf star, completely surrounding the globe. We have planetary shields powered by the Earth's tapped geothermal core that stretch for millions of kilometers.
And my personal favorite detail, the 24 stellar cannons circling the equator.
Those are unbelievable.
Each one of these is capable of destroying a moon. It's like we turned the equator into a giant spiked energy-projecting belt.
And underneath it all, buried deep in the mantle, are fusion engines with enough thrust to physically overcome the gravitational pull of the sun and move a world out of its orbit.
The thermodynamics of that alone? The exhaust must have been apocalyptic.
Oh, absolutely. But what's fascinating here is the sheer defiance written into the architecture.
What do you mean?
Well, the blueprints note that deep within the planetary core rested humanity's greatest achievement, a highly classified system designed specifically for the Void Fleet.
Oh, right, the core weapon.
Yes, a weapon offering one shot, one chance, We will discuss the mechanics of that core weapon later, but its existence proves that humanity didn't just build this shell to survive and hide.
They built it to execute the enemy.
Exactly. They didn't build a fortress bunker, they built a chariot to ride out and meet the threat head-on.
But while humanity is locked inside this 200-year construction bubble, completely focused inward on welding continents together, the rest of the galaxy is dying.
Rapidly.
The timeline outside the Sol system is reaching the absolute brink. The Void Fleet hasn't stopped.
No, for over 2 centuries, they've been advancing system by system, deleting species, collapsing grand empires, silencing thousands of worlds.
The lore notes that hope became a myth.
And eventually, inevitably, the enemy reaches the core worlds.
The core world, that's the heart of galactic civilization, right?
Yes, this is the economic, cultural, and political center of the assembly. It is the last major defensive line.
So if the core worlds fall, the war is effectively over.
It is the final stand.
And they throw absolutely everything they have left at it. The accounts describe thousands of allied fleets assembling, millions of warships from hundreds of different species.
It is the largest military force ever created in the history of the galaxy.
You just have to imagine the sky above these core worlds blacked out by armadas, all standing shoulder to shoulder for one final desperate defense against the silence.
They fought bravely and they fought desperately. But the history adds a crushing qualifier. They fought knowing they would lose.
Oh.
This is the culmination of that depression stage we discussed earlier. The alien commanders are going through the motions of defense because it is all they have left. But the mathematical certainty of their own deletion has already been accepted.
They are just trying to buy a few extra hours of existence.
Exactly.
And that certainty is proven right almost immediately. The largest military force ever created loses in just 11 hours.
11 hours to wipe out the combined desperate might of a galaxy.
The defensive grids collapse, the capital ships are erased, the Void Fleet continues its silent march forward, and there is literally nothing remaining between them and galactic extinction.
Nothing.
Nothing. Except a signal.
This is perhaps the most emotionally resonant moment in the entire narrative.
Oh, 100%.
A structural contrast is incredibly stark. On one side, you have the absolute peak of despair, the physical collapse of the final defense, the literal end of all things.
And precisely at that moment, every communication channel across thousands of worlds, across the millions of surviving crippled ships, hacks open and activates simultaneously. I cannot get over the sheer cinematic timing of this. It's the cavalry arriving at the top of the hill, but times a billion.
Yes.
A calm, automated human voice comes through the static, overriding all the panic, and simply says, "We apologize for our absence. Earth is now operational."
The profound understatement of that phrase, now operational,
Yeah.
is brilliant writing within the lore.
It really is.
It treats a 223-year absence, the agonizing silence while the galaxy burned and trillions died, as a mere technical delay.
Like, sorry, we're late. Traffic in the Sol system was terrible. Also, our planet is a gun now.
Exactly. It frames the metamorphosis of a living planet into a warship as if it were simply a machine coming off an assembly line that just needed a bit of calibration.
I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of an alien commander hearing that broadcast. You are sitting on the bridge of your flagship. Your fleet is burning around you. The Void Fleet is moving into low-level format, your homeworld.
You have closed your eyes and made peace with the end.
Right. And then the supposedly cowardly, hairless apes that everyone thought ran away 2 centuries ago suddenly hack every secure channel to announce they are operational. The sheer psychological whiplash and confusion must have been staggering.
It highlights a powerful thematic contrast, really. The aliens used their 2 centuries to accept extinction and prepare to run. Humanity used that exact same time to weaponize a planet and prepare to fight.
And the physical manifestation of that preparation is awe-inspiring. The records describe the moment Earth broke orbit.
Ancient stars trembling deep within the Sol system.
Massive subterranean engines igniting and violently ejecting plasma.
Space itself distorting under the mass effect.
The impossible happened. Earth moved. That line gave me literal goosebumps.
It's so powerful.
Just the sheer physics of it, overcoming the immense gravitational bind of the sun, pushing the mass of an entire planet without shattering its crust.
And the visual description is so vivid. Entire continents glowing with thermal heat.
The remaining frozen oceans shining with blue energy as the heat sinks reach maximum capacity.
Gigantic engine vents opening around the poles, sending shockwaves rippling through the vacuum of space.
And I love this detail. The moon detaches from its natural orbit, fires its own thrusters, and follows behind. We didn't just bring the planet, we brought the sidekick.
Yes, Mars immediately launches thousands of escort vessels. Hidden shipyards in the asteroid belt pour out human fleets. It's the grand, terrifying reveal of World Ship Omega.
So 3 weeks later, Earth arrived. The journey from the fringes of civilized space to the core worlds, utilizing whatever massive hyperspace or full drive Hale's team managed to build into the planetary core, takes 3 weeks.
And when Earth emerges from hyperspace, the gravitational wave alone disrupts the battlefield.
The text compares it to a second sun appearing in the sky.
Its planetary shields are so immense, powered by a spinning iron core, that they illuminate entire star systems. Its weapons arrays literally dwarf the alien dreadnoughts that were fighting just moments before.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting. Because up until this moment, for over 200 years, the Void Fleet has been this unstoppable, unfeeling force of nature.
It's a cosmic eraser.
Right. It doesn't pause, it doesn't think, it just deletes. But when Earth drops out of hyperspace, looking like a heavily armored, glowing, furious god, even the Void Fleet hesitates.
That hesitation is a critical historical milestone within the context of the lore. The records explicitly note, for the first time in recorded history, the enemy stopped advancing.
This is the moment humanity flips the script.
Completely. The Void Fleet operates on the principle of unilateral action. They erase, they do not interact, they do not react to defensive formations, they simply consume matter and energy.
So by forcing them to physically halt their advance, Earth has fundamentally altered the paradigm of the war.
They have forced a reaction from an entity that previously seemed incapable of one.
And humanity doesn't waste a single second of that hesitation to try and talk. The battle begins immediately.
Millions of Void vessels recover from their pause and charge at Earth in a massive swarm.
And Earth fires back. Just one of those 24 equatorial cannons unleashes a beam brighter than a star.
It creates a localized corridor of destruction, thousands of kilometers wide, right through the absolute center of the enemy fleet.
Everything inside that corridor just vanishes.
It is a poetic reversal of tactics.
Yes.
The enemy that only erases is suddenly subjected to the exact same treatment on a macro scale.
Earth is erasing them.
Yes.
The surviving alien fleets erupt in cheers across the comms, but it's just the opening salvo. We enter what is known as the 7-Day War.
For 7 days and nights, Earth fights continuously.
And the accounts paint this incredible picture of Earth acting not just as a sword, but as a colossal shield.
The planetary shields absorb kinetic and energy impacts that would have instantly vaporized entire civilizations.
Human escort fleets break formation to protect the vulnerable, crippled Allied ships. Everywhere Earth moves its massive bulk, the records say, hope followed.
This completely recontextualizes humanity's role in the galaxy.
How so?
Well, before the blackout, they were just another mid-tier species on the fringe. Now, they are the anchor. The massive scale of World Ship Omega allows it to act as a mobile stronghold, completely changing the tactical reality of the battlefield.
The Void vessels are swarming in the millions, but they are crashing against an immovable, armored object.
And for the first time in centuries, the Void Fleet does the impossible. It retreats.
The victory feels so earned. It's the payoff for 223 years of total societal sacrifice, for boiling our oceans and turning our mountains into steel plates. The enemy is finally running.
But
If you look at the tactical reality of this universe, you know that a retreat by an emotionless machine fleet is rarely the end of the story.
the retreat wasn't a rout. It was a tactical deception.
Precisely. The retreat wasn't a surrender. It was a clearing of the stage. The lore reveals the terrifying truth. The Void Fleet, this unstoppable armada of millions of ships that had systematically deleted half the galaxy over decades, wasn't actually the main invasion force at all.
They were just the scouts.
Which is a completely paralyzing realization. As the Void vessels pull back, a massive rift opens in deep space, and the true enemy emerges.
And the description here shifts from a conventional military threat to something akin to Lovecraftian cosmic horror.
It's a living machine larger than planets.
A centralized cosmic intelligence. A being that literally consumes galaxies for fuel.
The sheer escalation of scale here is vital to the thematic core of the story. Its body stretches for millions of kilometers across the system.
Its mere arrival darkens the local stars as it absorbs ambient energy. And we are told that entire Allied fleets are destroyed merely by approaching it.
It generates a localized field of gravitational and entropic destruction so intense that conventional combat is mathematically impossible. So I really have to pause and ask, Isn't this the definition of a Pyrrhic victory?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, think about the sunk cost here. You spend 2 centuries gutting your ancestral home. You sacrifice the natural world. You force generations to live underground. You turn your planet into the ultimate battleship. You finally win a fight. And then you find out the final boss is quite literally bigger than your planet.
And it's devastating.
How does humanity not just break right here? The sheer psychological weight of that realization should shatter them. You burned your house down to build a tank, and the enemy turns out to be a hurricane.
That is exactly the reaction the rest of the Galactic Assembly has. Panic spreads instantly across the surviving fleets.
Even Earth, this terrifying weaponized globe, suddenly seems small and insignificant by comparison.
The Assembly immediately reverts to its default biological programming.
Yeah.
They issue general evacuation orders. Again.
They realize that even a weaponized planet cannot fight a cosmic god. I'm trying to imagine the human commanders hearing that evacuation order. They just sacrificed 2 centuries of sunlight. They gave up the concept of a natural Earth. There's zero chance they're turning back now.
And they don't. The historical record states humanity ignored them. Again, as they always did.
There's that profound evolutionary stubbornness coming back to the forefront.
The enemy scales perfectly to humanity's audacity. But humanity's audacity does not have a ceiling.
They don't panic. They don't break.
They simply proceed to the final classified step of Marcus Hale's original plan.
They don't even hesitate. Which tells me that the AIs and Marcus Hale, back in that Himalayan bunker 223 years ago, somehow anticipated this exact scenario.
Or at least the AIs ran the simulations and anticipated that whatever intelligence was driving the Void Fleet would require something far beyond conventional ballistics or plasma to destroy.
This is why they built the core weapon. The records say within Earth's core, human commanders activated Protocol Omega.
This is the culmination of everything. Protocol Omega isn't just a weapon system. It is the final desperate gamble that the entire 200-year project was built around.
It is the weapon nobody believed would actually work without tearing the Earth apart.
And the activation sequence is incredibly dramatic because of the vulnerability it requires.
What happened?
Across the entire surface of Earth, the lights in the subterranean cities dim. The 24 massive equatorial stellar cannons power down.
The planetary shields, the very things keeping the human population and the surrounding allied fleets alive, flicker, weaken, and completely drop. They are routing every single available joule of energy inward, toward the planetary core.
Toward whatever impossible machine Hale hid beneath the boiling oceans.
They are stripping themselves entirely bare. They are completely defenseless in the middle of a war zone while this sequence charges.
And the cosmic entity, this ancient destroyer, notices the sudden drop in energy output. For the first time, its sensors understand danger, and it turns its massive bulk toward Earth.
Which sets up one of the most poignant moments of tactical and emotional reversal in the entire history of the Assembly.
Earth has dropped its shields. It is completely vulnerable, while Protocol Omega charges up its singularity.
The cosmic entity is moving in for the kill, projecting its field of destruction. And what happens?
The human escort fleets, the ships that launched from the Mars shipyards, immediately form a defensive wall in front of the planet.
But they aren't alone.
The alien fleets join them.
And then more join.
Yeah.
And more. The logs explicitly state species that had once hated one another stood together.
It's this beautiful, tragic irony.
Just a few days ago, Earth arrived to be the shield for the alien fleets. But in these final moments, when Earth is utterly exposed and helpless, the alien fleets willingly become the shield for Earth.
It's a cosmic trust fall.
It really is. It is a phenomenal tactical and sociological shift. Think about the psychology here.
These are the exact same alien species that moments ago were ordered by their own governments to evacuate.
They were prepared to run into dark space.
But witnessing humanity's absolute refusal to yield, seeing this one insane species bet its entire homeworld on one final mysterious shot, inspires a collective courage that completely transcends their biological programming for self-preservation.
They choose to stand and die, simply to buy Earth the seconds it needs to charge its weapon.
And die they do. The historical accounts refer to this maneuver as the meat shield.
Brutal.
The cosmic entity attacks. The massive defensive line of millions of ships shatters almost instantly. Thousands of dreadnoughts explode, and millions of alien and human crew members die in seconds.
The sacrifice is immense, the loss of life is staggering, but the record says they bought time. Just enough time.
Deep inside the Earth's core, The countdown begins.
It's a sequence that perfectly connects the macro scale of cosmic warfare down to the intimate, fragile human experience of a countdown.
10, 9, 8.
Billions of survivors across the galaxy, hiding in bunkers on distant worlds, are watching this telemetry feed.
Human commanders in the core are exchanging their final messages, knowing full well that what they're about to unleash might tear their own planet's crust apart in the process.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Earth fired.
And we have to look at the physics of the weapon itself because the description is vital. It is not a super laser. It is not a massive plasma bolt or a kinetic projectile. It is described as a beam of pure gravitational energy.
Yeah, let's pause and look at the physics here. Why gravity? If you are building the biggest gun in the universe, why project gravity?
Because gravity is the fundamental force that governs the macro universe. It is the tether of reality.
It is what holds planets together. It is what binds star systems and galaxies.
The genius of Marcus Hale's design is that he didn't just build a gun, he weaponized the mass and the rotational energy of the Earth itself.
To fight a being that is the size of a solar system, a being that consumes galaxies, you cannot use conventional energy. It will just absorb it.
You must use the very fabric of space-time.
By projecting a localized singularity, a literal tear in the gravitational constant directly at the entity, they are attacking its structural reality.
The records say, stars bent, space twisted, reality screamed.
But wait, if you project a localized singularity out of the Earth's core, how does the recoil not instantly rip the Earth's tectonic plates to shreds?
Are they essentially turning the molten iron core into a giant electromagnet to contain the gravity well as it fires?
Exactly. They are using the entire planetary mass as a containment field and a shock absorber.
The thermal and kinetic stress on the mantle is catastrophic, which is why it was a one-shot weapon.
It crosses millions of kilometers of space in seconds, and it strikes the cosmic god directly in its center of mass.
And I love the tension in the historical logs here. For a moment, nothing happened.
You can just imagine the collective breath of the entire galaxy catching in their throats.
The AIs are rapidly processing the data. Did it work? Did we just sacrifice millions of allied ships and permanently gut our homeworld for a dud?
Did we miss?
But then, the impossible occurs. The colossal creature stops moving.
Massive, continent-sized cracks begin to spread across its armored body.
Radiant energy begins leaking from fractures that are larger than entire worlds.
The gravitational beam didn't just hit it, it disrupted the structural integrity of a being the size of a solar system.
It tore its physical form apart from the inside out, turning its own immense mass against itself.
And finally, the ancient destroyer shatters.
The explosion of its core illuminates half the galaxy. It's a literal supernova of a dead god.
And the immediate tactical aftermath is fascinating.
Yeah.
Because the Void Fleet, those millions of scout vessels that were swarming everywhere, they instantly lose all coordination. They just stop.
Which confirms the AI's ultimate theory, right?
Yes, the cosmic entity wasn't just their leader, it was their central processing hub. It was the hive mind, the localized server for their entire network.
With it destroyed by the gravity beam, the void vessels lose their operating system.
They revert to dead metal drifting harmlessly in space. The threat is instantly neutralized.
The war, a war that raged for centuries, deleted thousands of species, and consumed half the galaxy, is definitively over in an instant.
The silence that follows on the comms channels must have been deafening.
The records say nobody spoke, nobody moved, nobody breathed. They couldn't believe it was real.
And then, a single surviving alien captain transmits one sentence across the open galactic channels.
Humanity did it.
It is the ultimate vindication of the entire premise of the human spirit in this universe.
The insane plan presented in the Himalayas, the 223 years of darkness and subterranean sacrifice, the willing destruction of the natural world, the multi-species meat shield, it all coalesced into a single moment of triumph.
Cheers erupt across thousands of worlds. Civilizations that had fully expected and mathematically accepted their own imminent extinction are suddenly celebrating their survival.
The galaxy is safe.
But the victory comes at an immense, incalculable cost. We have to look at the physical aftermath for Earth itself.
The logs tell us that Earth survived the recoil of Protocol Omega, but barely.
Its primary weapons arrays are completely melted down and exhausted.
The miles-thick neutron armor is heavily damaged, cracked, and cratered by enemy fire.
The massive fusion engines in the mantle that moved it across the galaxy are completely crippled and burned out.
It's not a functioning warship anymore. It's a husk. It can never go back to being the blue marble it once was.
It becomes a permanent monument. It is stranded in the cosmos, physically broken and locked in a distant orbit, but the narrative emphasizes the symbolic weight of its survival.
It is still standing, still protecting the stars, still carrying humanity, still refusing to surrender.
The physical planet itself has adopted the psychological profile of the species that inhabits it. It is battered, scarred, and forever changed, but it is unbroken.
Years later, the story notes, alien species travel from across the galaxy just to look at it.
They don't go to a museum to see a plaque. They travel light years just to look at the scarred planet itself floating in space.
And the closing lines of the historical record are just a perfect synthesis of everything we've explored today.
Alien children gaze out the viewports of passing ships at this colossal, armored, scarred planet, and they ask their parents, why did humans build a battleship out of their home?
And the answer provided by the parents is the philosophical core of our deep dive today. Because every civilization prepares an escape plan, humanity prepared a way to fight. And when the darkness came for the galaxy, Earth itself went to war.
It's a stunning conclusion.
And looking back at our entire conversation, breaking down the logistics and the sociology of Worldship Omega, it really forces you to internalize the metaphor.
Obviously, none of us are going to have to sit in a Himalayan bunker and decide whether to turn Earth into a giant spaceship to fight a cosmic space god.
But the underlying theme of that evolutionary stubbornness is profoundly relevant to our daily lives.
We all face overwhelming situations.
We all encounter those moments where the math seems entirely against us, where a crisis feels like it's just going to format everything we've worked for.
And the natural instinct, the logical instinct, is to prepare an evacuation arc, to pack up, cut your losses, and run away.
It is the biological instinct of preservation, but the story asks us to consider the alternative, the instinct of radical transformation.
What are you willing to fundamentally change about yourself, about your environment, in order to stand your ground?
Exactly. So I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over long after this deep dive ends. Think back to that burning house we talked about at the very beginning.
Yeah.
If pushed to the absolute edge, when everything you know and love is threatened by the void, would you just grab your things and run? Or would you be willing to sacrifice the very nature of your home, to tear it down to the studs, rebuild it in fire, and change it entirely, just to stand your ground and fight back? Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We'll see you next time.